Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co, and today I'm reviewing DragonKeepers from Cosmos. DragonKeepers is a 2 to 4 player set collection game with an interesting playing mechanism that has it both simple, accessible, but also, well, a little bit intriguing to actually dive into. In the game, you're ultimately trying to play sets of dragons. You're going to be gathering various dragons, we'll explain how that works shortly, and then playing those dragons in order to achieve these various amulet pieces that will form amulets that you can then grab one of these red or blue things to put in the middle of the amulet and try to score points that way. That's the kind of main mechanism you're going to scoring points through. The game will end when enough amulets have been created collectively from the players, at which point you'll score up all the things that give you points and see who won the game. Now in the game, what you're going to do is you're going to start your turn by drawing 1 to 3 dragons, either 1, 2, or 3 dragons. More dragons is generally better. The trade-off is that sometimes you have a good play, and drawing more dragons will ruin that play. You see, right now over here, the game is currently going to allow us to play exactly 3 orange dragons. That's the only thing we're allowed to play. Unfortunately, my hand is empty, so I can't play any dragons right now. But if I had 3 orange dragons, I could play them. But I don't have 3 orange dragons. Empty hands. See what I said over there? But, so what I'm going to do over there in the game is I'm going to go ahead and draw a dragon. Now I'm going to start by drawing a blue dragon and see what comes out. Next, we got a 1. This is going to flip over. These 2 piles remain separate. Now we have a 1 over here, so I'm going to draw this white dragon over here and see what happens. Because if we get a blue, nope, we don't. But I'm going to try to draw another one. Let's see. So we're going to draw this 3rd dragon. Again, I can draw up to 3 dragons. We're going to flip this over, and unfortunately, no, we still need orange dragons. That's going to be my turn. We'll go to the next player's turn. Next player is going to probably try to do the same thing. So they're going to draw a blue dragon, see what comes out next. They're going to draw another blue dragon, see what comes out next. And then they're finally going to draw a 3rd blue dragon and see what comes out next. And finally we have a blue dragon. Now the reason that's important is because after you draw 1 to 3 dragons, you can go ahead and either manipulate the stack, which we'll come back to soon, or just go ahead and fulfill the current requirements, which right now is 1 blue dragon. So this player over here, they're going to go ahead and play a single solitary blue dragon. They're going to play it down into their board over here, like so, and because they've done so, they will take the lowest portal piece over here, the lowest amulet piece, as well as a single gem. We'll talk about how gems can be used shortly. That's their turn. They have this hand. We're going to go back to this player over here. Now this player, again, is looking at a hand of white and blue dragons right now. The tricky part is they know they might be able to play more dragons. So they're actually going to draw from this stack over here, drawing a blue dragon, and see what comes out next. We have another 1 over there. They're going to draw another 1 over here. The second card draw is going to be a 4th blue dragon, and see what comes out next. Then we have a 2. The tricky part now is they can hope for the best. You know what? Let's go ahead and draw this 2 over here and see what happens. We're going to draw this as our 3rd dragon and see what happens next. We got another 1 over there. Not as satisfying as we were hoping, but you know what? You got to do what you got to do. We're going to go ahead and play a single dragon. We're going to play this blue dragon to our stacks over here, and then we're going to go ahead and have a player. You know, let's just see if we want to change anything. You know what we're going to do? We're actually going to go ahead and manipulate the stack. So if you recall, I told you have the ability to manipulate these cards. After you draw 1 to 3 cards, you can choose to take any 1 card and play it on the left or the right based on the back. So this blue dragon over here, you can see on the front, on the back of it is going to be a 3 double portal. So we're going to double amulet. I don't know why I keep calling them portals over here. We're going to play this down over here, and that means we've changed the requirements to being 3 blue dragons. We're going to go ahead and play 3 blue dragons. So we're going to take these 3 blue dragons over here. We're going to play them down in a single stack, and then we're going to take the lowest amulet over here, but also the next level amulet as well. We're going to go ahead and take that to start forming our chain of amulets. So you can see that in the course of the game, you're going to draw 1, 2, or 3 dragons. As you do so, you're constantly changing what the stack needs, what you can actually play on your turn, because you can't play more, you can't play less, you have to play exactly what the stack is asking for. Then from there, you can go ahead and manipulate the stack by placing a card face down on either side, either changing the color or the quantity, and then from there, you go ahead and play and fulfill that, usually taking various amulet pieces, or taking some of these dragons over here. You can see over here, if we keep drawing through these over here, you're going to have over here, that one lets you take you have to play 2 blue dragons. You'll take 1 piece over here, but you'll also take one of these, which is wild. They're wild, they can be used in any set, but they can also be played face down to require 6 dragons, and they'll give you the lowest over here, the lowest amulet token, but that king sign over there means you also take the highest available amulet token, which as you can see is 20 points. So you have the ability to potentially get that 20-point token, and there are some cards in the stack that will let you do so as well. That's basically the mechanics of the game. You're going to be going ahead and gathering sets of dragons. You are being mindful of the pacing of the deck. You're trying to find your opportunity to take the cards you can when you can. And there's a few other things to talk about based on the various stuff you're going to get. So the first thing to talk about, the first thing to make sure we address is the fact that as you play dragons, you can play them on either side. So for example, let's pretend I have this dragon over here. And we go ahead and keep drawing, and we have this one flips it over here, and this one flips it over here. I'm just going to keep flipping until we have a situation. Let's say over here. Great. When I go ahead and play this dragon right now, I can play a white dragon. I can play it to the left or the right of my blue dragon. Won't really make much of a difference yet. but the next time I play a card, it will. You see, right now I play this over here. I'll take the lowest piece. I'll go ahead and finish this. Now, the first thing to note is when you go ahead and finish this, you're going to start by taking one of these red pieces, which is either an 8 or a 9. It's going to be extra points you can go ahead and put in the center. Once those are gone, you're going to be taking the blue ones, which are either 3s or 4s, which means there is a bit of a race aspect of finishing your amulets as fast as possible to get those extra bonus points. Because you might sit there and say, well, you know what, you should go ahead and wait until the lower pieces are taken, because then you can take the 4s, the 6s, the 8. You can get the higher pieces by waiting. The problem with waiting is someone else is going to get those extra bonus points from the red tokens, so there is a race aspect going on here, while also being a delay aspect going on. You're trying to be mindful of the various things. But the second thing is, I've played my white dragon, I've played my blue dragon. The next time I play a set of dragons, let's pretend we have this over here, boom, we have this over here, let's go ahead and, play down a single orange dragon. Again, it goes to the left or the right. Future blue or white dragons do go on top of the stacks until I go over here and play this orange dragon over here, at which point I can no longer play blue dragons. You can no longer play dragons in between the two stacks. There are 4 colors of dragons, which means at any given point you can only play 2 colors. And when you start off, you're going to play your first color, you're totally fine, you're in the clear. Your second color, you're totally fine, you're in the clear. Your third color means you are locking off a color of dragons, and your fourth color means you're locking off 2 colors, which means, again, you might sit there and say, well, then just be mindful, just build up your hand, keep those green dragons in your hand, there's no rush at all, you can play those all later, you can grab that black dragon, you can go ahead and play 6 of them, just take your time. The problem with taking your time is that there's also a reward for having all 4 colors. When you play your 4th color of dragon, you're going to take this 16-point token. Again, the second person gets only 10, the third person gets only 6, which means, again, there is both a reason to delay and a reason to go as fast as you possibly can. So you're trying to balance that. You're trying to be mindful of which colors other players are closing off, because you'll have an easier time getting those cards at the same time. The last thing to talk about is going to be, we haven't talked about these over here, but let's talk about 2 more things. First of all, these egg tokens. Various dragons, as you go through the stack, will give you eggs over here. So if you see over here, we're going to get eggs. When we take these over here, what we get with those is we get a token over here that's worth 4 points. But in addition to that, whoever has the most eggs, if you have at the end of the game, we have a player over here like so, the most eggs gets to hatch one of the eggs, turning it into a 16-point egg instead, making it a reason to go ahead and race for the eggs. You're racing for everything in this game. Everything in this game, you're trying to get your hands on as fast as you can, or as ideally as you can as you go through it. And the last thing are these little blue gems. The blue gems can be used for one of 2 things, depending if you're playing at the advanced mode or the beginner mode. The beginner mode, you simply can trade these in to get a 4th card draw on your turn. So that time you're torn, when you kind of want that 3rd card draw, but you're worried about ruining the stack, well, you'll get a 4th card draw, which means at the very least you get 4 cards, which is always a good thing. But also you have the opportunity to kind of risk it a bit, knowing you can pull back and use that gem to draw an extra card. It gives you flexibility to draw the maximum cards you can, because maximum card draw is good, while having the agency to be able to take extra cards and possibly change the stack in your favor if or when you need to do so. The second thing you can use them for are going to be these tiles. The game gives you these 6 little treasure chest tiles, each of them giving you a different ability in play. And you can only use one of these per game officially. Feel free to house rule and use multiple per game. But you can use these ability tiles. I wouldn't go too crazy, mind you. Maybe 2 of them might be fun. But you can use these tiles 1 per game. And you can trade in your blue gems to take the ability on that tile. This horn over here lets you play to a middle stack dragon. You're building up a hand of blue cards that you can no longer play. Well, if you go ahead and play a gem, you can go ahead and play them all down over there. This one over here lets you take the next amulet up. So, that time when you have a one over here trying to skip over to get that next level, you can do so by paying in that gem. And efficient use of these gems with these ability tiles will give you even more agency as you work your way towards the points. That's basically the game. You're going to do that until enough players have formed amulets. You're going to look for the finished amulets regardless of who has them, count up the total. Again, that will be depending on player count. You'll see the total you need to get. I believe it's 2 for 2 players is 7 amulets, 3 players is 8 amulets, and 4 players is 9 amulets, if I recall correctly. And that's going to trigger endgame, at which point the game is immediately over. You score up the points and see who won in DragonKeepers. Which brings us to the review, starting off with ease of play. The rulebook over here is, 2 pages. This is the rulebook over here. We got the rulebook. You flip it open, and you flip it closed. That is all the rules you need to play this game. It is a very easy game to set up, to teach, to play. It's just a very accessible game with very, very cute dragons. The game's going to run around 20-30 minutes. Table space is very minimal. In fact, the box, I believe, says 20 minutes. I found that the game tends to run a drop longer than that. There's actually enough decision space going on here that the 20 minutes is definitely doable, but, a bit of I'd say that's a rushed game. Past that, as far as what I like, don't like, and can see others not liking, starting off with what I like, which is the art and production of these adorable dragons. This is it's not a good reason to get the game, mind you. We'll come to other good reasons in a second, but the art over here, look at these dragon cards. You can have these 4 different colors of dragons, and, there might be repeated artwork, I don't know. So far, everything seems to be completely unique as far as every piece of art, but I haven't actually compared them all. I just know, like, here's 3 blue dragons. They all have a certain style to them. Nope, there definitely are repeated artwork. So over here, let me give you an example over here. So over here, we have this piece of artwork is repeated, so we know there's repeated artwork. But past that, I mean, even the blue dragons alone, just looking at this over here, there's at least 5 unique pieces of art for the blue dragons over here, which is a decent amount of overlap, a decent amount of variation to the game, and I mean, I haven't gone through exactly how many there are, but there's a decent amount going on. I will say the art is so good that I'm kind of disappointed these shadow dragons over here, these wild ones, are exactly the same, and honestly, the least cute dragons, which I'm disappointed about. Maybe a good variety of rainbow dragons could have been a fun way to do that. I don't know, but honestly, it's such a small nitpick, but the art and presentation is so good that it's actually a noticeable nitpick. But past that, as far as other things I like that are more than just art, the general closing off of colors is a tense aspect of the game of that binary. In fact, not just the closing off of colors, the race aspects in general. The game gives you a few different reasons to wait and a few different reasons to chase in the game, and I like that trade-off. That means you have agency over trying to figure out how fast you want to play cards right away. Playing a 4 dragon set takes a little bit more time than playing a simple 1 dragon set over here. But the rewards are different, and the trade-off is different. Trying to rush your way through a bunch of these lower portals, amulets, not portals, dear lord, amulets, trying to race your way through those amulets over there, while it does allow other players to go ahead and get the 4 and the 6, you in the meantime are going to go ahead and get these extra gems worth more points, since you are trading off the exact pacing of what you do. And similarly with closing off colors. Closing off colors is going to have that same trade-off. You know, yes, you can go ahead and have a very efficient, productive game, even if you close off a color or two, and so racing your way to get that 16-point token, being mindful of the players. Don't close yourself off too quickly, because why bother doing so if you don't need to, but pay attention to the players. Pay attention to when a player has their 3rd dragon out, get your 4th dragon out, get that 16 points, deny them that swing. This is a game that can go in the 100-point range or so, and so 16 points is a big deal and is something worth chasing in the game. Past that, there's a general trade-off of trying to draw more cards. More cards is almost always good, but again, because of the race aspect of things, drawing more cards does set you up for good turns down the road. For being able to go ahead and play that, you know, that 6 dragon over here, play 6 of these, get a 20 point, plus maybe a 6 point, you get 26 points in a single play, sure, that's great. But the flip side is you're not getting all the things early on. You're not driving, you know, you're not getting those eggs, you're not getting those gems, you're not getting all the various things. There's a constant tension of trying to get more versus taking advantage of the opportunities to play things as efficiently as you possibly can. So the game gives you a very simple decision space, but enough things to actually think about within that decision space. And then also I like these little treasure chests over here. Gives you a small way to mix up the game every single game with different things that will give you different abilities you can play every single game, and just keeps the game slightly variable while having the same core engine at play. As far as things I don't like in the game, first of all, the game is definitely luck-based to a degree. Not in a major sense, but there's definitely luck going on, both with the fact that over here, these tiles are different values, and so it's just a completely luck-based element of, you know, hey, do you get the 8 or the 9? Do you get the 3 or the 4? It's not a big deal, but it just feels unnecessary to have that extra complete luck element in the game. But in addition to that, drawing more cards, as I said already, is good. Drawing 3 cards a turn, that is almost always better than drawing 1 or 2 cards. And so drawing your way to 3 cards and having the perfect card come out that you actually can go ahead and fulfill the order, there is a small degree of luck in the game, or not even small, there's a medium degree of luck in the game as far as maximizing your card draw while still being able to play cards to fulfill orders. If you can draw 3 cards a turn while playing dragons every round versus somebody who has to play, you know, draw 1 dragon and otherwise they might just get stuck with something they can't actually fulfill, there's definitely a trade-off in the game. Yes, there's good decision making to be had in the game, but there's also luck at the same time that will, you know, reward some players more than others as you go through it. And again, that point aspect just feels completely unnecessary. And then lastly, I'll say that the decision space is on the low end. This is a charming game. We'll get more into it. Final thoughts. It's a charming game. There's decision space. There's you know, beautiful looking dragons. It's an easy game to teach, to play all that. But if you're looking for a meteor game, DragonKeepers is not that. This is very much a light set collection game with some interesting things that keep it unique, but very much on the lighter side. As far as things I can see others not liking, first of all, the actual core gameplay loop I find teaches best by showing players what's happening. That idea that you're drawing up to 3 cards, then you're possibly changing the stack, then you're playing dragons. It's very simple. The actual game is very simple, but I do find it is very helpful to actually have players play out a turn or two so they understand the sequencing. It's not immediately intuitive because it's not just draw 1 to 3 dragons, draw them from where? There's only 2 dragons here. Well, when you draw a dragon, you change the stack, and that changes demand. Again, very, very simple, but it does take players a second to understand what's happening and to understand that the card draw, the building up of your hand, the way things play out, while being a lighter game, that aspect, because it's different, and different I think is a good thing, it gives it a reason to stand out in the space, also makes it a drop less intuitive. I'll say that closing off of colors, as much as I enjoy it, as much as I think that that's one of the tension points in the game, the decision space of when you close off colors or not, that could be frustrating to players who are looking for a lighter experience and suddenly find themselves with a handful of white dragons that they can't do anything with. Can be a little frustrating for players who haven't like properly strategized around that. And then lastly, I'll say that the immediate end game can potentially be off-putting as well. The game immediately ends when you get those last portals built, the last amulets built. I don't know why I think they're portals. The game immediately ends when you get that last amulet built, which could be a little harsh. There's no one more turn, one more play, and so you could have a player who's left with like 4 or 5 cards that thought they'd be able to go ahead and play out a nice final round, and they just don't get to do so. You obviously have to strategize around that, but if you didn't, it can be a little anticlimactic at the end of the game. As far as final thoughts on DragonKeepers, to me, this is a light, charming game that is different enough to be worth paying attention to. It's got cutesy dragons, which makes it very appealing, and it makes it easy to be a good gateway game, a good game to teach others, a good reason to have players involved in like just drawing cards and picking up. I find games with good art, games with good presentation are good in general, and especially in the gateway category, it gives people a reason to pay attention. To me, DragonKeepers is an excellent gateway game, although gateway is the key word. This game's a 3.5 out of 5 for me. The decision space is a little on the low end, making it a slightly less satisfying experience than the kinds of things I'm personally looking for, while at the same time being charming enough and accessible enough and quick playing enough that all around this is one that, well, I don't know how long it's going to last in my collection, but it's sticking around for right now because of just how charming it is. It's charming, it's easy, it's accessible, it's a good quick game to play with my kids or with new gamers, while giving you enough decision space that there's actually enough of a game going on here that it's not just purely draw a card, play a card, there's what to think about as you go through it. So 3.5 out of 5, that's DragonKeepers. If you're looking for other game recommendations, first of all, Jumbo from Cosmos as well. In fact, it's the same artist as well. Michael Menzel, I believe. Yeah, Michael Menzel as the designer. Same artist as this game, I don't remember who, but the same artist as DragonKeepers. Jumbo is an out-of-print game that is hard to get your hands on, but it has a very similar tension point as far as the drawing of your action cards every single round. It's a fascinating trading game. If you can find a copy at a reasonably good price, I highly recommend you pick up Jumbo. It's a very unique, excellent game that I think is due for a reprint at any I say any day now as if it's going to happen. I think it's due for a reprint. I think it's a great game. But then past that, Lost Cities, also from Cosmos Games, is another game that has an interesting trade-off in terms of the way you close off lanes. You kind of have to commit to certain colors in Lost Cities as you go. And again, that's another 2-player specific game, but it's going to give you certain decisions as far as trying to vie for 5 different colors, trying to decide which journeys to engage in and which ones to leave well enough alone. Has a similar aspect of drawing cards or finding cards that may or may not be useful to the engine, with an interesting way to get rid of those cards. And so both Lost Cities and Jumbo, very light and accessible games that are good recommendations if you like DragonKeepers or if you're just looking for good games in general. In any case, until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you found this video helpful, and as always, I hope you have a good one.